We have the solution to the clean water crises around the world, but in many places, most places, we're not using the solutions. So just to bring you one area, Mexico is facing a severe water crisis, and it's probably not going to get better. Mexico is in big trouble, and it's Mexico City is one of the most populous cities in the world. But this article is about Texas. Texas needs radical solutions for water conservation. South Texas is facing a water crisis decades in the making. Much of the region's, this is from popularresistance.org, by the way, much of the region's growing population relies on the Rio Grande as its sole source of drinking water, also known as the Rio Grande. Yet in recent years, climate change has gripped Texas and caused hotter, drier summers, the river's flow is diminished to a trickle in some areas. This year, months before summer has officially set in, major reservoirs on the Rio Grande are nearly empty after reaching historic lows last year. So this is already, we haven't even gotten in to summer, and this is already happening. There's already a water crisis. Let's get into the solutions that we're largely not using for the water crises that will get worse. They're only getting worse, both because we're polluting the water and because we're using it all up and because times are getting hotter, which is causing water to evaporate. All of those things. Well, here is one solution. There is one country in the world that gets most of their water from recycling their water. They get the majority of the water from recycling the water. It's one country. And yet most other countries, even those facing water crises, are not doing what this country does. It is Namibia. It's been like this since the 1970s. Namibia has recycled most of their water since the 1970s. In 1960, Windhoek, the capital of Namibia, struggled to support a quickly growing population. Increased demand put groundwater supplies under stress, and severe water shortages forced the city to innovate. After 8 years of pilot studies, the Gorengab Water Reclamation Plant, GWRP, became the first in the world to produce purified drinking water directly from sewage water. Today, the plant produces up to 25,000 kiloliters of drinking water every day, up to 35% of the city's consumption. But that's not the only way they recycle their water. So it's they get over half of their water, I think maybe even 70% of it, from various reclaiming manners. But to address just this, the water recycling plant or whatever, first of all, you have to understand that some of the water you drink is already done this way. I believe there are large ones in New York City. But let's also remember that even the water that comes down in rain used to be at some point part of sewage. I mean, most of it. The idea that, once water is sewage, it's always dirty. Well, that's just dumb, because all the water in the world is cycling around. And even the water in sewage, some of it evaporates, right? Then rains back down, then ends up in your drinking water. So just going, ew, I get the response is, but it actually means that that's pretty much all the water in the world has at some point been involved in sewage. On top of that, it's like, if you can make the water clean again, that means the gross stuff is taken out and gone. You see how that works? If these people were all getting sick and going, gross, our water tastes like shit, I think they wouldn't be using this system. I think they're using this system specifically because the cleaning of it actually cleans it. Also, there are other water reclamation techniques, none of which we use. For example, watering of crops it can't be salt water, but it doesn't have to be sparkling, clean, fresh from the tap water. There could be kinds of water used to water plants that are not just like perfectly clean water. And instead, we largely don't do that. You also could have systems that, guess what? Take the water after you shower in it and then recycles it and puts it into your toilet so that you're not using fresh water to shit in. There are some countries around the world that look at us, especially, sadly, very poor countries, but that look at us and go, wait a second, You take a dump in like sparkling clean water? Are you out of your mind? Here's another reason that we are running out of water. You would never hear this on your mainstream media. This cannot be talked about. Many of you know that the Colorado River, one of our most important water sources, it is drying up. It doesn't even reach the ocean anymore, and it's disappearing. And there are fights between various states, California, Arizona, others, about who gets the water, how much they get to steal, etc. But even if they agree on that, they're using up all the water. Colorado River is disappearing, and climate change is just getting worse. So where does the Colorado water go? Here's where the Colorado water goes. Here's a chart showing you the vast majority of the Colorado River water goes to crop irrigation. Your response might be, well, we should throw away less vegetables, right? We throw away 40% of all food in this country. Maybe we should do a little bit of less of that, right? Let's not throw away all the ugly vegetables anymore. But it gets even worse. It's not just that, what is that? That's over 75%. It's like 80% goes to crop irrigation. Domestic and public supply, so those of you drinking and showering and stuff, is just a tiny, it's a pizza slice of the pie. So every time you see a billboard that says, you know, you should shower, you should be humping someone else in the shower, or you should take a dump with someone sitting on your lap, all those billboards, just remember that domestic public supply of water is the tiny fraction of what's being used. But it gets even worse because of all that water used for crop irrigation, most of it is being drained. This is about 70% is being drained for livestock feed crops. So all those crops, 70% of them are going to feed the billions of animals that we keep. Most of these billions of animals we then eat, or we are using them to produce milk or eggs. But of course, we eat a crazy amount of meat. And much of these crops that are being grown for, let's say, cows, aren't even going to American cows. Much of the alfalfa, which is a huge part of where this water goes, is sent to China to feed their cows. So we are draining some of our most important natural resources in order to ship alfalfa to cows in China. And we've got people in the United States that can't find fresh water, or are paying some crazy amount of money in order to get fresh water by getting bottled water or other corporate entities that sell them fresh water. Even if it weren't being sent to China, the idea that we should be eating meat for every goddamn meal. And again, you know, I don't eat meat, but I don't preach to people that you have to immediately stop eating all meat. But I do think we need to decrease heavily the amount of meat we eat. It is insane what we do. Also, heart disease is the #1 killer of men. And so, you know, the meat's also not great for you to eat that much. And all of this is subsidized by our corporate governments, by our corporate government that just give massive giveaways to large corporations. But so this destruction of our world, of our environment, is subsidized by our corporate government. The corporations own the government. They tell them what to do, and they get all these massive giveaways. And then they tell you, you need to work harder. It is absolutely a rigged system. And so many aspects of this system that I'm bringing to you right now are like never talked about. They talk about that surface level, right? I like to mention the four levels of reality. Now, there's more than 4, but I like to go to roughly 4. You talk about the surface reality. There's a water shortage. Then maybe some will dig a little deeper and go, well, there's a water shortage because there's a fight between Arizona and Colorado over who gets the water, and Then some dig even a little deeper and they go, oh, there's a water shortage because of climate crisis. Wow, now you're getting somewhere. Then some dig even deeper. So I'm going more than 4 layers here. Some dig even deeper and they go, well, there's a water shortage because we're using all the fresh water on watering plants. And then some even rarely, you'll see someone dig even deeper and go, well, there's a water shortage because climate crisis, and we're using all the water to feed the plants, and all those plants, or a lot of them, are going to feed livestock. Almost never will you hear down to that level. And then really almost never will you hear, well, it wouldn't be like this if you didn't have a market economy. if you didn't have an economy that benefits the rich, the corporations that have all the power, have all the lawyers, have all the ability to rig this system for them to enrich themselves, if you didn't have that system, then we wouldn't be doing any of this. We'd actually make decisions as a community that is best for the community. Could you imagine doing that? Could you imagine such a crazy idea?